space. Space goes. You know what?
What?
That's what. That's what.
Does that make me crazy?
It's recording. Hi guys, so this is Miss Meyer for another episode of the Miss Meyer Show. I know you guys are super excited about it. Ignore this huge pile of clothes that's next to me because don't judge me. I don't have time to fold them. Let's just, okay, so if you move that way, you'll see. And we see that we've got blue right there. So what we're doing now is we're continuing on with chapter 4, and we're doing chapter 4, part 2. Now remember, guys, I told you that you do not have a textbook. Only I have one because I'm that special. So your textbook is a virtual textbook. And if you need, let me adjust this light a little bit. Actually, is that better? I guess. I don't know, it's gonna be good enough. So, you don't have oh, I hate when I do it with my hair. This is only reason I've got this is because I'm the teacher. You guys have a virtual one that you're gonna be working out of. Okay, so we're doing chapter 4, part 2, and that is starting on page... Where did we stop? Well... Actually, because we're going to go back, because we covered a little bit of this in class, but not all of it. So we're going to start on page 136, and it's going to go up until 157. Now, like I said, we did have some of this last week, but not all of it. So we're going to do some now, and then some, you know, like I said, we'll do that makes no sense. I'm going to have to start over. I'm so... All right. Hi guys, it's Miss Meyer with another episode of the Miss Meyer Show. So we are doing chapter 4, part 2. Now chapter 4, part 2, what we're going to focus on, we did do some of it last week, but we're going to do the rest of it this week. So even though we kind of covered some of what we're going to talk about last week, we're going to do the majority of it now, okay? So you're going to be using your textbook, and you're going to be using pages... 130 all the way, no, not 130, sorry, forget I said that, it's not 130, it's, sorry, 136 to page, went too far, 157, so 136 to 157, so we're going to just go over that right now, just the majority of it. So let's backtrack a little bit what we talked about in Thursday's class, and that was in a little bit in the last Miss Meyer show. And let me adjust my light here. It's very hot, my light. It's really hot, actually. I don't know it's supposed to be that hot. I'll burn my house down. It's like seriously hot. Well, maybe it's a light bulb. I shouldn't touch a light bulb. Probably the best idea, but I am a doctor, almost. This is why Belle puts forks in the toaster. Okay, so, all right, here we go. So, the American Revolution was happening, you know, not around Louisiana. Louisiana was not part of America at this time. Louisiana was still part of Spain. So, when the American Revolution happened, Spain was kind of like, oh, we don't know if we want to get involved because... You know, they didn't want to start a war with Britain at all. So they didn't want to go stick their nose where it didn't belong because they're afraid, like, hey, what's going to happen if, you know, America loses and Great Britain's going to come and attack everyone who helped them? So they were like, I don't even want to be involved. So at first, they started helping out the colonies and the colonists secretly by like trading with them, you know, all kind of on the down low, like not saying anything. It was all done secretly. And then it was obviously more open. Now, the guy who was in control at this time was Galvez. Now, you know, Galvez, when he was in Louisiana, we talked about him last week and a little bit in class, he was a military guy. So this guy was not the kind of person that was going to just sit by and let this happen. He was a strategist. And that means that he was doing things on strategy. Like he was looking and seeing, okay, what cause and effect? If we do this, how is that going to affect Louisiana? Well, he eventually knew that he couldn't stay neutral in this war, that Spain was never going to have to stay neutral. And he didn't feel that, you know, he and the king of Spain did not feel that it was time for the Spanish to get involved. So he said, no, don't do that. And don't get involved, telling this to Galvez, look, let's just stay neutral. Well, you found out, you know, Galvez is trading and doing stuff with the Americans. Well, they want to make sure that they're neutral. They don't want to anger Great Britain any more than they already have. So some parts of the Mississippi River, the lower parts, they let England kind of travel along those parts of the Mississippi River. Because remember the area of Florida, that South Florida that Spain once had, England took over after the French and Indian War. So Spanish were using Louisiana, especially New Orleans, for a buffer zone. And that was to protect all of their real, you know, lucrative places like, you know, in South America from getting into British hands. So they were kind of helping out the British a little, but they were really helping out the Americans, the colonists who had declared their independence. Because remember, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And they really hated England. They really did. And so if they were going to help somebody out, they were going to be helping out the person that was going to get England out. That's the one that they were wanting to help. Now, Galvez also knew the importance of New Orleans. Now, we're awesome, right? New Orleans anyway, but Galvez knew that holding on to that city would be such a big deal because that city is the key to the Mississippi River. And so at all costs, Galvez wanted to make sure that that New Orleans city, or that city, you know, which was New Orleans, was very well protected and that it was safe from not only the British, but from also the Americans, you know, that could have come down. So he really wanted to protect New Orleans from any outside influence because this was a big deal. It was a really big deal. So Galvez spent a lot of focus and a lot of time and a lot of resources and things like that on strengthening the defenses of New Orleans. Because of that, New Orleans has always been a big city. It's always been a big deal that people wanted. So, you know, some people like to say, like Rachel Jackson, like whatever, Andrew Jackson's wife, that New Orleans was Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff like that. But you know what? So many people wanted Sodom and Gomorrah that they had to make sure that it was protected at all times. So, go ahead. Just slow your roll, Rachel Jackson. So, Spain eventually enters into this war. They knew that if this war, I mean, obviously, they were getting found out. I mean, they were secretly trading with the Americans, but it wasn't very secretly done at all. And so they were whole kind of like, oh, you know, secret code trading thing. That was figured out pretty soon. And they knew that when this war was over, and if Britain won, not only were they going to come after Spain, but they might come after the real moneymaker, which are the gold deposits that they had in South America. That was what they really were counting on. And so they said, you know, rather than having to help out, you know, the Americans secretly or on the DL, if we join the war, we can, you know, really out in the open help them with ships and supplies and, you know, guns and ammo, power, everything. So because we're out, we're obviously declaring war. So we can help them more. So Spain declares war on Great Britain, followed directly by France. So now America is backed up by two major countries. And it's not long before that, you know, the Britain kind of pulls away because there's just no way. So before, when you had these 13, you know, little colonies, now you've got two major empires, Spain and France, fighting against Great Britain. So Great Britain was knowing, especially after like the big battles like Saratoga and Yorktown, and oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart. The other one, they knew that they were not going to make it. There was no way. It was a losing battle, and they eventually signed the Treaty of Paris of 1783. Now, what the Treaty of Paris of 1783 did besides in the American Revolution, was that it opened up more land for the Americans to be able to settle. It gave back, so when Britain lost the American Revolution, it gave all that land obviously to America, and it gave its areas down by Spain, by Florida areas that they had taken over to Spain. So now Spain had all of their own lands that they had originally had, and they had now the lands that they had taken from France, and they had all of South America. The United States had all this land on the eastern side of the United States. So they had much more land. And what this did was open up huge areas for people to go and to live and to build communities and things like that. Because even though, you know, places in Louisiana and farther west were not owned by America at this time, people were still encouraged to go and settle there and to have a settlement. And then kind of we work towards inclusion into the United States. So now people, the Americans, have this so much at their fingertips that they can just go and do all these things. So this really kind of changes the way things operate in the North American colonies and in Louisiana, because we start getting a lot of immigrants coming over to Louisiana, New Orleans especially. We start getting much more than we had before, to the point where the population is so intense that it's almost hard to contain. Now, as Galvez was always gone on the military thing, they had a guy kind of helping him out at home, because Galvez was a military person. He was out with the troops. He was out doing his job. He could not stay focused on what's going on in Louisiana. So he put this guy in charge. He said, okay, you're in charge while I'm gone. And his name was Esteban Miro, okay? Now, once the whole war was over and Spain had control back of its lands, Galvez leaves. He says, I'm going back to, he wants to do military stuff. He doesn't want to sit around and be governor. So he's like, look, I do what I had to do. I'm gone. This is yours now. So now Miro is in control. He's the governor of all of Louisiana. And like some of his predecessors before him, he decides that he's going to change New Orleans and make it a good city and a good place to live. He said that he was tired of living in a town that was so full of wilderness and crazy people and drunkards and debauchery, all this kind of stuff. So he wanted to make it a better place for, you know, just a cleaner, safer environment. And the way that he did that really was to try to change the way of life for so many people in Louisiana, especially New Orleans, because these are people that are used to this culture. They're used to the party, kind of fun, laid-back atmosphere, you know, laissez les bon temps rouler. That's what they wanted. So now Miro comes in and he says, okay, we're getting rid of all this. We're going to make this a better place to live. And the people that had been there for, you know, generations, they're like, why do you want to make this better? It's already good. So some of the things that he did is he put into his place something called his Bando de Buen Gobernero, which means the Proclamation for Good Government. And in this proclamation, these are some of the things that he did, okay? He encouraged people to attend Mass. He discouraged trade on a Sunday. He monitored the taverns and places where gambling took place more carefully. He required anyone entering or exiting the city to have permission from the governor's office. The people of New Orleans were not, I just want to say that, sorry. He encouraged immigration from both the United States and Europe. And he did a lot of stuff that the people of Louisiana did not like. They just did not like all of these changes that he was trying to implement. They did not like that he was bringing all these people over, these new people, and encouraging them to come. Well, the Spanish saw that these people were going to come anyway. They were going to come anyway. So they wanted to kind of make it to their benefit that they had people coming over. So what they would do is they enticed people that they would want to come over here and settle in Louisiana. And so that's what they started doing. So Miro and the government, the Spanish government, the crown, excuse me, started offering huge land grants to people who were wanting to come over here, and they could come and that land grant is basically this, saying, I'm going to give you the land to live on. So, you know, if anybody in here lives on land or property, like I really want to do, but I don't want to have any kind of animals that I have to touch or clean or do anything like that, but I do want them, I just don't want to be the one that does that. So, you know, that's just what it is. So if you're living on land, you have to purchase the land before you can put a house on there. So you have two costs. You've got to buy the land, and then you need to pay for the house or whatever kind of dwelling you're going to put on the land. So by giving a land grant, Spain was saying to these people, you don't have to pay for this land. I already have it paid for you. You can just come here and settle and just start your life. That's it. So people were coming with this. They're like, hey, you know, that's less I've got to pay. I don't have a lot of money as it is. You know, I'm going to go over there because they're offering land grants. And they were offering these land grants to people that they wanted to come to Louisiana for some reason or another, to fulfill a purpose. Just like they wanted the Pelican Girls and the Casket Girls and all of them to come over to fulfill the purpose of, you know, having more little Louisianians. They wanted certain groups of people to come here to perform a specific task as well. Okay? So in 1791, Miro asked to be released. He said, I want to go home to Spain. I don't want to stay here anymore. And so, because obviously, you know, he wasn't very popular. And he was replaced by a man called Don Francisco Luis Hector, the Baron of Carondelet. So it's Carondelet. So if you're living around Chalmette, New Orleans area, and you're looking at those street signs, and you see a sign that says Carondelet, or Carondelet, or whatever you want to call it, it's after this guy. That's the guy who's taking over. So now Carondelet is the governor of Louisiana because Miro is gone. He's like, I don't want to be around in this whole thing. I'm going home. Well, when Carondelet becomes governor, he's got a whole nother issue at hand. We talked about this in class a little bit. Whereas, like, you know, you're the big brother or the big sister, and your little brother or your little sister, they want to do what you do. You know, your parents might say to you, you're an influence. What you do influences them because they want to be just like you. Well, this is kind of happening because all these countries, smaller populations of people in these countries are seeing that the American colonists had risen up against the tyrannical government and won their independence. So that kind of copycat thing starts spreading all across Europe and even into like other places that Europe had control over. The biggest one that really had the biggest difference that affected Louisiana was the French Revolution. And in the French Revolution, the people rose up against the aristocracy, meaning the very, very rich people of France. So you had your poor farmers and merchants and things like that had risen up, taken over France, killed the king and queen, and made it into a republic. So no longer was in a monarchy, was not under control of Louis XVI. They killed him. They killed his wife, you know, and all these other kind of stuff. It was now in the hands of the French citizens. But that gets a little crazy, but we'll talk about that in a second. So now France has declared a revolution. Next, there's a revolution in Saint-Domingue. Saint-Domingo, whatever they call it. Well, it was called Saint-Domingue, but France's revolution and the American Revolution sent shockwaves throughout the whole world. So in Saint-Dominique, where this was Spain's land, this was where, you know, was it Spain? No, it was France's land, excuse me. So it's with a modern day Haiti. You know where Haiti is? It's around the cusp, Africa. So in Haiti, this was a French-ruled, I guess, territory, we want to call it. And the slaves that were there learned about the American Revolution. They learned about the French Revolution. They learned about what it was about and what was their goal, what they wanted to accomplish. And they rose up against the French. And when they did, they went and just took back for Haiti. They took Haiti for themselves. There was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of hard, terrible things. A lot of, just it was crazy. But eventually, the Haitians won their independence, and that's the reason Haiti is what is a country. And Haiti was the first Western country to be governed by people of African ancestry. So they were governing themselves. And this was the first African, group of people that were running their own country, because this was the first one. So Haiti was a big deal. But what this did was this made a lot of the big planters that were living in Haiti that owned the slaves, they fled because they were running for their lives. And where did they go? They came to Louisiana. So when they came to Louisiana, they brought with them all of their slaves, or the ones that they could keep with them. So you have this huge influx of people that are running away from the Haitian, the rebellion in Saint Dominique. But you know, you've got all these people coming in there, and now you're like, what do I do? Okay, what are we going to do with these people? Because where are we going to put them? We've got Americans that are coming in. We've got the French who are coming in from Saint Domingue. We've got the regular Acadians that are still coming in. We've got people coming in from Spain. We have people all over here. So we've got to focus on this population. So what happened next even stretched the limits of Louisiana even farther, because now we have a whole new group of people going around and you know, kind of trying to get into Louisiana. And they're called the Kaintoks. Now, these were pretty much frontier guys that lived up in the kind of the northern section of what was Louisiana Purchase in the wooded area. So they were coming down to Louisiana because they wanted to come and live in New Orleans. So now you had these Kaintoks, you had Acadians, you had Cajuns, you had free people of color, you have French people, Spanish people, I can't remember if I said Americans. So they're all here in Louisiana, and the Spanish government is like, what is going on? The world is going crazy. Next, so what they wanted to do is say to America, stop sending us your people. We understand you want people to come here, but look, let's just end this. Let's stop it now because we can't go on. The population is just too much. So President George Washington, who was first president at this time, he sent a gentleman to come over to Spain to negotiate a treaty. And his name was Thomas Pinckney. And what he did is when he had negotiated this treaty with the King of Spain that said that this is what we're willing to do. And what the terms were that Spain would agree to give American ships the right to freely navigate the Mississippi River to move goods without paying taxes to Spain, like to free trade. Then it also, and then they, the Americans, said that they would set the boundary between the United States and Spain as far as like the Spanish territories over in North America as like at a clear boundary that was at the 31st parallel. Basically, before now, the boundary was not very clear and people were just flooding in, especially from America. So when we signed Pinckney's treaty, it gave us clear, definable lines that said, hey, you are in, like the big signs, you ever go traveling on a road trip and there's a sign that says, welcome to Louisiana or welcome to Texas or something like that. Like big signs that said, hey, you're leaving the American territory. You're entering into Spanish territory, and so forth. And I mean, it's not going to stop people from coming to Louisiana. Really didn't do that at all, but it did really help with just, I don't know, kind of make you feel like, hey, this is mine or whatever. So what Pinckney's treaty did was kind of put a Band-Aid on a huge growing population crisis that was going on in Louisiana. Now we've got all these, we still have all these people coming over. I mean, yeah, that Pinckney's Treaty does make a difference, but we still have a ton of people that are immigrating to Louisiana, the Louisiana territory, but they're mostly staying in and around New Orleans. So they've got to make people go to other places in and around New Orleans, because New Orleans is busting at the seams. And the problem that this was causing was an increase in crime, an increase in disease, and an increase in fire. And by this time, there had been a massive fire in the French Quarter that destroyed and killed a ton of people, because there's so many that are coming in. So many. So they needed to figure a way to get people to move in the other places, like the other outskirts of Louisiana, so to say. I need to take a drink because my throat is dry. Diet Coke. I should probably drink water, but you know, what goes better with jelly beans than Diet Coke? Although I do have water too. See? So I do have both. I just tend to drink more of the Diet Coke. All right. So, moving on. So in order to do that, in order to get people to go to the other places in Louisiana, they start giving out incentives saying, hey, if you do this, you get this. Kind of like this thing that we're dealing with right now with Vivian. I hate this thing. Okay, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, you people that set this up. You were wrong. Because you send these things home with little kindergartners, and they're like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then you're forced to buy a bunch of stuff so that they can get some stupid Triceratops toy. I don't even know where it is. It's how dumb it is. Okay, let me get to this. This was the incentive. So back up a little bit. Vivian comes home from school the other day. She's like, everybody got a dinosaur but me. And I was like, what do you mean everybody got a dinosaur but you? And she said, they did. I didn't get a dinosaur. And she's crying all about it. Of course, you know, I'm such a disciplinarian. I was like, yeah, so what? You know, whatever. No, not at all. What I did, I can't even find the dinosaur. The dinosaur she cried about and I had to buy some random junk is gone. I don't even know where it is. I mean, and I found it today because she had already lost it, and I found it this morning when I was trying to vacuum, but now it's gone again. Seriously. And so I don't know where it is. Oh well, it was gone already. I'm sure I'll find it after I'm finished this. This is the way it always goes. But anyway, so it's this little thing right here, okay? So this is what she has to do. She gets to collect. It tells you, collect all 10. Wow, so that's the incentive. And in order to get this great prize, which seriously, they're this big and they're like trash. They're trash. You have to sell a bunch of items in order to get the prize. Okay? So this is like, you know, it's one of those things like this. Wrapping paper and, oh gosh, what else is in there? Like, just not even stuff that I would even use. But because my daughter came home, was so sad, like, oh, no, I've got anything. I'm not getting anything. I had to buy 2 items so that she could get a ticket that looks like this to give to her teacher that says that she sold these things and she gets the dinosaur. You're a wrong individual company like this because you know what you do to people, right? Don't you know that parents nowadays, these new babies, they don't give them any discipline. They give them everything they want. So of course, when they come home crying about the dinosaur, you're gonna get it for them. It's a conspiracy. I believe it. And it's lucky that she gave it to me and not to my husband because he would have bought like 20 different things so she could get every dinosaur. I was like, look, I'll buy in 2 so you can get 1. Because you can only get like in intervals. Like you collect 2, you get this one. You collect 10, you collect 20. No way, 2. That's what she's got. Because we see how well she's taking care of them, right? We don't even know where it is. Back to this. So Spain started giving incentives to people to move to these other areas of Louisiana. They're like, look, if you go and move there, you get out of the city, you go to there, we're gonna make sure that you have everything you need. We're gonna give you enough supplies to last a year. We're gonna give you a farmland. We're gonna give you an axe. We're gonna give you a sickle. We're gonna give you a spade. We're gonna give you 2 hens, a rooster, and a pig, but you just can't stay in New Orleans. So you can imagine people like, yeah, that sounds like a deal. And they were leaving the city because there were just too many people there. And so one of the groups of people that really started coming in and taking advantage of moving to other places were the Acadians. Now you remember that these people were coming in for a long time. They started coming in with the Grand Derangement, you know, from up in Canada, but now even they started coming in even more. There was a ton of them coming in at this time, and it said the Acadians in your book continued to come in the Acadians continued to come in the late 1700s, making them the largest group of immigrants to come to Louisiana during the Spanish period. And so the Acadians, that's why we have so many Cajuns here. That's why Louisiana, when they think about Louisiana, people think about things different. I guess you could say, you know, stereotypes in Louisiana. Because, you know, they think, oh, gosh, are you Cajun? I'm like, I am not a Cajun. Well, I guess I kind of am, but I don't know. No, you know, not that. Because that's what they think is Louisiana. They go, oh, Cajun food and all this kind of stuff. And the reason that people, okay, you lost me. I lost you. Okay, sorry. So the reason they do that is because there were so many Cajuns that were here. And when you have a huge group or a huge, you know, thing of population, you're going to have a big input. You know, you're going to have a big influence. And because we have so many Cajuns, they have a huge influence on Louisiana, and even today with their culture. Like if I have a dinner party, which I love giving dinner parties, y'all. It's one of my favorite things to do. I always cook like gumbo and stuff like that because they're like, oh yeah, you know, you people from New Orleans, let's do that. And I always cook Cajun food, you know, because that's what they expect. Really, you know what my gumbo is? Don't tell them, it's a secret, because they think it's the bomb, right? You know how I feel about cooking. I don't like to do it. So I get the Zatarain's box of gumbo and I just put it in there. I'll add like chicken and sausage. And there's their gumbo. And they're like, wow, you're such a good cook. I'm like, I know. That's a secret. Shh. Okay, so next we have a group coming in. And this is what means I know this for a fact. I know many of them. And I actually have, I think we have some in my actual family. And they are the Isleños. Now the Isleños were run by Spain. And they came from the Canary Islands. And the Canary Islands, just like the Saint Dominique was run by France. The Canary Islands were run by Spain. So you start to see a ton of Canary Islanders come to Louisiana, and they start settling all around the area of like St. Bernard, Plaquemines Parish. That's where they're all settled, and they go in there and they really take, you know, a big population jump. That's not what I wanted to say. I messed that up. They come in and they populate certain areas, and that's why you think about it. You look at Louisiana, okay? You look at certain parishes. Those are your Cajun parishes. That's where most of your Cajuns are from, in those certain parishes. You go down to like St. Bernard, Plaquemines, everybody's Isleños. Everybody. All the names, the Isleños names and all that kind of stuff, they all are like that. And that's why it's just a huge culture. Louisiana is so unique because we are one state, but we're made up of different kind of, you know, everybody's got a different kind of thing. You go from, you know, down the road with the Isleños, which we call down the road for our Chalmatians. High five. Chalmatians. And you're going to get a lot of Isleños. You go up the road, you're going to get different people. You go over into the Bayou parishes, Ascension Parish, Assumption Parish, all of them, you're going to get a ton of Cajuns. You've got all these people coming in different places, and they're settling, but they're staying. And when they settle and they stay, they kind of make their own culture. A lot of Americans that were coming from America settled in the northern part of Louisiana. So that's why, that's really the big thing why so in the southern part of Louisiana, there's a lot of Catholic influence. It's very, very Catholicism in those parishes in the southern region of Louisiana. You go to the northern region of Louisiana and you're going to get much more Protestants, because that's what, you know, they were coming from America, whereas the people that were coming here to settle in the lower half of Louisiana were coming from France and Spain, where the Catholic Church was, you know, the big deal. So that's why that's there. Also, too, when we have all these people coming, of course, slavery is going to expand, because they start making money. They start building these plantations. They're building cotton plantations. The cotton gin comes around. Now people can you separate the fibers of cotton like that, and so they need a lot of people to do the work. So this period of time, with all these people coming in, you get a huge increase in slave labor too. We do see an increase of the free people of color in New Orleans at this time, because after the fires especially had destroyed the French Quarter, they needed to have someone rebuild it. And so what they did was the people that would be slave owners would lease out their slaves, so that the state, or not the state, you know, the Spanish government would pay them for the use of their slaves. But Spanish slave law said that the slave himself or herself would also get money. So what they would do is they would say, okay, I'm going to take Joe's 2 slaves and have them work on rebuilding the Cabildo. Well, I'm going to pay Joe $20 a day for the use of his slaves, and I'm going to pay his slaves $5 a day for their personal use. And so by doing this, and for the amount of time, I mean, it took forever to rebuild all that, slaves were able to buy their freedom, because if part of the Spanish slave law, they were able to do that. And so during the Spanish period of Louisiana, we got a lot more slaves, but we also have a lot more free people of color that are here as well. Now, we're going to talk about Napoleon, I guess, just a little, because we're going to cover it pretty much in class, because we have to go, we're not going to go over it too deep, because it kind of gets, I don't want to. I'm going to do that when we get to next week. So Napoleon now is French, and he is taken over France. So the king and queen are gone. They are no longer a monarchy. They are under the control of one person, again, and he is a dictator. And he's not a president. He's not someone who gets elected by the popular vote. He's not someone who can get thrown out of office. He is a dictator. So France went from having a monarchy to having anarchy, which is no government, to now having a dictatorship. And Napoleon is no joke. He might be a little bitty guy and have a lot of, some issues, right in here, but he was not going to play. He was not going to do that. So when he went and he talked to Spain, he said, give me back Louisiana or else. Spain said, take it. It is not worth the trouble. We were just holding on to it for you anyway. And they said, we don't want problems with you, France. We don't want to mess with you, France. Just let us keep our little South American thing going. It's back to you. So in the Treaty of San Ildefonso, which was a secret treaty, again, they do all kind of secret things back this time. France took back control of Louisiana, which brings us to the end of this week's Miss Myra Show. Your code word for today is right here at the bottom. Please make sure that you enter into this code. You enter into it. You enter into the code word, like dun, dun, dun. Whatever. Just enter it in for the code word quiz. It's an easy A, okay? And I will see you guys in class. Don't forget that this Friday, the 21st of September, 2018, is it the 21st? I believe so. Yes, the 21st of this September, next Friday. Well, I'm filming this on a Friday, so next Friday. So on September 21st is the end of the gating date. So what you need to do is that you need to make sure that you have all of your assignments done that were assigned to you in August, because they're going to close and you're not going to be able to redo them. It's kind of like how a movie goes into the Disney vault every now and then. Like all of a sudden they'll say, oh, it's going back into the vault and you have to get it. These tests are going into the vault and they're not coming back out. So any assignment that you were assigned from the time you enrolled, so if you enrolled late, you are excused from everything that was assigned before you enrolled. So don't worry about that. So from the time you enrolled, any assignment that was given to you in the month of August is due the September 21st, no later, at 11:30 or midnight or whatever it is. So please make sure that you have those turned in. It is so imperative. So that's all I've got for you guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your week. Focus, do your stuff. Remember, I truly do believe in you guys, and I love you very much, and I'm so happy to be your teacher. I truly am. But definitely do your stuff. Por favor, please. And I'll see you in class. Bye. Hi. Hi, Rapunzel.
Hi.
It's me, Tiana.
Hi.
Hi, what you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
I went down in my.
What's wrong with you? Why you can't stay still? What's wrong? Okay, girl, I'm talking to you. What's your problem? Excuse me. You're acting really strange. Look, all right, look. If you can't talk to me and you want to act like this, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go.
Okay.
You want me to go? Let me tell you something about this chick, okay? This is my issue that I've got with Snow White. Are you listening? Let me tell you about Snow White. Snow White Okay, she runs away from her evil stepmother who wants to kill her. So she runs away for freedom. So find a house with 7 strange guys where she's basically their maid. She cooks and she cleans for them and they have to treat them like babies. So she runs away from one desperate situation to another one. Then she falls in love with some guy she looks at for like 10 minutes. How is that possible? And they don't even speak. They sing to one another and she's madly in love. Something is very wrong with Snow White.